Jimmy Thang from Maximum PC here at CES 2015. I'm here at Razer's booth speaking with Chris from Razer. And Chris, can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Okay, so we got the OSVR hacker development kit here, actually with a Leap Motion module attached, and that's part of our latest announcement, our foray into the virtual reality space. So actually what OSVR is twofold. It's a software framework setting a new standard in virtual reality, as well as supporting the hacker development kit, which is the hardware that you see here.
Okay, so I mean, just like looking at it, it looks, obviously very similar to, Oculus Rift's,
right.
Development kit and stuff like
right.
that. One, are you guys like sort of? So I think a lot of people are going to think that you guys are sort of just jumping onto the VR bandwagon. Right. So what do you have to say about that? And then how would you say your headset is different?
So we're not jumping on the VR bandwagon by right. So what we're doing is we're kind of helping VR, like to push VR forward. We've been watching or following VR for a long time, and we've actually been working in the VR space behind closed doors for a long time as well. But it's always been kind of like almost consumer ready, but not quite there yet. So what we've kind of been looking at is how can we push it into the consumer space, make it ready. For us as Razer, obviously our focus is on the peripheral side of things. That's what we're known for, that's what we're good at. So the head-mounted display or the VR glasses that we've announced here is not a consumer-facing product by any means. So what we're actually doing is it's entirely open source. So what that allows is that any guy out there doing any HMDs can actually take the designs and incorporate them in their own. So it's not a competitor to any of the HMDs out there. In fact, it's there to help them, because for us the focus is on the peripheral side of things, not on the HMD side of things.
So for those that don't know, HMD stands for head-mounted display, right?
Yes.
And so does that mean that Razer will not be releasing its own HMD then, and they just rely on partners?
Yeah, as I mentioned, for us the focus is on peripherals. We'd be happy if other people do consumer products in the HMD space itself. So that's why we're kind of giving up all the competitive advantages we would have had. Like there's a couple of cool things we've done on the hacker development kit, from using a dual lens system that reduces distortion to adjustable optics, stuff like that we've provided. But all of that we've kind of like open sourced now, and given any advantage we had on the HMD side of things, a way like anyone can incorporate that into their own designs. Because for us, we're more interested in the peripheral side of things.
Okay, so is there a business model out there that you guys are trying to mimic? Can you give me an example of something that's kind of...
Yeah, I mean the closest example would be like with the Android of VR gaming with OSVR, because essentially everything's open source, and we're getting tons of partners on board to help contribute to the whole thing.
But then again, you bring up Android, and Google does make their own
yes.
Android products, the Nexus line, Nexus 6 and all that.
You would see products from us in the virtual reality space, but it might just be more focused on the peripherals rather than HMDs.
Okay, so just touching upon the peripherals,
yes.
Do you guys know how to best control VR? I know you guys had the Razer Hydra, which was before the time of VR.
Right.
A lot of the VR community does use that still. As far as I know, you guys aren't making that anymore.
Yeah.
So are you guys going to be making more VR peripherals?
We will, and we will be following up with an announcement after CES that's going to be related to peripherals. It's going to be, it's going to come soon, but we're going to make an announcement on the peripheral side of things for an actual consumer product. What technology that's going to entail, I guess, we'll see then.
So I know before with the Razer Hydra, you guys teamed up with 6 Sense.
That's right.
Those guys are working on their own VR controller right now. Could we see a potential partnership with them again?
It's certainly possible, yeah.
Okay. So earlier I had a chance to try out the OSVR, hacker kit, and it's very similar to, I'd say, the Oculus Rift development kit too.
Right.
One thing that was a little bit different is that you guys mounted a Leap Motion to the front, which you can technically do on a DK2 as well.
Absolutely.
But that allowed you to sort of interact with the experience with the game with your hands, via your hands, and you can sort of like, if you go like this, you can create a fireball and then chuck it at enemies and stuff like that. Is that something we can, expect to see more, like hand integration and things like that?
Potentially. So the nice thing about OSVR is that it's kind of supporting any type of hardware. So especially in the virtual reality space, you have a ton of different sorts of input devices, right? You have camera-based gesture tracking, right? You have even stuff like Notlabs is doing like Bluetooth ring for gesture tracking. You have motion sensing like what Sixth Sense did and what we did before, or even more exotic stuff like if you're familiar with the Vertex Omni, like it's like a platform that you run on to kind of get movement into the virtual reality space. So there's a ton of different input devices, which is kind of also the reason why we're doing OSVR, to kind of support they basically allow game development to kind of focus on developing for one platform and get support for all these input devices in one go. So on Leap Motion, it's certainly possible. We're evaluating lots of different technologies, and the Hacker Dev Kit itself, like now we have a demo with Leap Motion, but we also have actually demos with Notlabs, we have demos with the Hydra. So it's just one option of controlling the game, but there's a lot of different opportunities and options, lots of different technologies that kind of come together there. The thing about OSVR is that it's open source, it's flexible, so anything works on it.
So how's that different than what Oculus is doing?
It's different in the sense that it's fully open source in the first place, and secondly, you're not limited to one specific hardware. You just the Oculus SDK is obviously focused on the Oculus development kits as well. OSVR is set out to support everything from HMDs to like different HMDs, including the Oculus DK2 in fact, but also Viavana, GameFace, the Sensix. So different kinds, and of course the Hacker Development Kit itself, but also bring in tons of peripherals, which right now is not really part of the Oculus SDK either.
Okay, and so do you view? So I think I sort of equate the VR control situation to the Wild West.
Yeah.
We don't really know what works yet. Everybody's trying their own thing. Do you view that as something that's good, that there's a bunch of options out there? Or, like, in my personal viewpoint, I kind of want to see, like, one silver bullet that kind of solves all the problems.
So I think, and the problem to that is that no one has found the silver bullet yet.
Right.
But what OSVR allows is to kind of get everyone into a space that people can try it out, and from there kind of figure out what is the best way to control VR, and then kind of focus on that. Ultimately, it opens up the space to everyone and allow for development of games and content, and then figure out from there what is the best possible way to experience VR. And that's kind of where we also come in, is that because we want Razer products to have this amazing out-of-the-box experience. And right now, nothing in VR can give you that at this point in time, which is why we're not looking at a consumer-facing product at this point in time. But we're trying to open up the market, open up the space to kind of figure out what is the best possible solution to it, and then kind of drive towards that.
Okay, and I know you said you're not really trying to emphasize bringing a consumer product out with the the headset, but can you sort of talk about the headset, the specs,
Absolutely.
and things like that?
So it's a full HD display in there.
So 1080 resolution.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
1080 and 60 frames per second. Proper response rate and latency, and really clean images. The interesting thing though is actually that we're using a double lens system. So most HMDs are using a single lens system, which distorts the image quite a bit. So you have like up to like 39% distortion on the images, right? We're using a double lens system that reduces the distortion so much that you can you don't see any distorted images on the edge or anything like that. It's a super clear image, and there's nothing to be done on the software side of things in terms of distortion correction, anything like that either. The other thing is that you see here below these knobs that allow you to adjust the lenses, so that even if you're short-sighted or nearsighted, you can kind of make it work for you, even without using glasses, as well as you can adjust adjusted for your specific interpupillary distance. So you get a really nice image regardless of well, how large your head is and how far your eyes are apart and how well you can see usually, and then without using glasses at all. The other interesting thing is that we got a belt box that this connects to. This kind of clips onto your belt itself, and it allows us to have all the wiring go from the HMD to the belt box rather than having your head wired to the PC. So it gives you a lot more freedom of movement, and it also allows for a very lightweight design of an HMD itself. I think we're around 340 grams, so it's very lightweight. That's obviously without the motion camera that we mounted on here, so this wouldn't be part of it, but it's just kind of to show one possible way of doing demos.
Cool, and you said that it's a 1080p display. Do you plan on like upping that resolution a little bit? You know, rumor has it that the Crescent Bay is 2560 by 1440.
No, so ultimately, like we, as I said, like we're not really competing with anyone. So the display is very replaceable. The whole dev kit is entirely modular, but ultimately we don't need people to actually get this. They can, if they use a DK2, for example, they can develop for OSVR using that, and then we're happy if people just use whatever HMD they like to use it. So this is primarily meant for the hackers and the software guys that don't have HMDs yet. If they want a higher resolution, they can just buy a better display and kind of slot it in. That's perfectly feasible. From our side of things, if like a consumer-facing product would probably require a better display, but to experience a good VR experience, this display gives you a very, very good image already.
Cool. And when can hackers expect to be able to get their hands on one?
So we're shipping in June. June 2015 for $199 US, and we'll have limited developer access prior to that. So developers like coming on board with OSVR will already get limited allocation prior to that.
Cool. Thanks, Chris.
No problem.
For more on VR, check out MaximumPC.com.